Hey guys, welcome back to another Tumbler tutorial. Today we're going to be working on this Father's Day. It doesn't have to be Father's Day, just men's cup in general, fishing cup, wood grain cup, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to show you this super quick and easy design. I did this on my lunch hour on Friday afternoon, actually. Today is Sunday. So this is how quick this design is. It's super quick to put together. I think I had like 40 minutes of filming time total for this one. So super quick and easy. So we're going to start off by sanding and wiping down the tumbler with some rubbing alcohol to get all of that excess dust off of there. And then we're going to go in with our favorite wood grain color. If you don't know what the color of the alcohol ink is going to be before you put it on the cup, put it on a piece of paper and go and dry it with a heat gun or a hair dryer or something. It's a little bit deceiving when it's wet, but once you dry it, it'll show you the true tone of the inks. And then I'm just gonna match that up with this vinyl from Peach Yellow Glitters and pick which one I want. And once we've got that all set, we're gonna make sure we put our gloves on because alcohol inks make an absolute mess. If you've never used them before, don't even try to do it without gloves because it's going to be on your hands, it's going to stain your nail polish, it's a mess. So we're going to start off by just doing like a rough base of color. It doesn't have to look pretty, it's just going to build the coverage because we scratched up that paint surface. We want to make sure that's covered up. So I'm just going to go run around this with a brush and just lightly coat that. I'm not worried about what the top half looks like because it's going to be covered in vinyl. So whatever you see to come in this video, just disregard the top. I'm not really being too finicky about it. And we're gonna start our wood grain. So less is more with this. You don't want to squeeze so much ink on your tumbler that it's going to drip from side to side. It's really easy for it to run and kind of mess up the design that you've already worked on. So just one little drop, you can always add more, but it's very thin, it does run really easily. So we're gonna put that on there and we're gonna take our brush and in an upward motion, we're going to swipe the ink. The excess that's on your brush there will help kind of create that. And when you're seeing me pull the tumbler away, that's because I'm just using hot breath to dry that ink really quickly so I can build that and kind of make it that wood grainish, I don't even know, knot is what I'm looking for, type of a look. So we're just gonna go around the whole bottom of the tumbler. I do alternate with upward strokes, and then for the next one I do downward strokes just to give it some variation, but play with it. If you mess it up, you can always just go and take some 91% rubbing alcohol, wipe it away and retry it, or do it on a practice tumbler, whatever you like to do. But we're gonna go around and finish this up and then we'll apply the vinyl. For the bottom, I'm not going to be too picky about what it looks like. What I'm really trying to do is make sure that the ink is in the little cap of this base. This is a 12-ounce Husky from the Tipsy Magnolia. So it does have a removable base. Some of these tumblers that you use, they don't, it's just like an enclosed base and it doesn't have that little seam in there, but this one it does. So I'm just gonna put some ink in that little crack, make sure it goes all the way in there so there's no white showing through under the inks. And you'll notice that it kind of dripped off the edge here. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of take it and blend it back into the original wood grain design that I did, and just play off of that. It's not a huge deal, but this is what I was kind of mentioning earlier. You want to make sure that you're not getting too heavy-handed with that ink drop because it does bleed into the other areas. And especially if you finished it and spent all that time, you want to make sure that you're not having to go back and redo that. So once that ink is dry, I'm going to go in and measure out what size I want my vinyl. I'm going to cut that. And we're just gonna apply it directly over top of these inks. I don't have any epoxy on this. And at the end of this design, actually, I only have 1 coat of epoxy total. It will get a second coat, but this is just to show you how quick this design is. I don't do any epoxy work prior to the entire design being completed. So super quick if you're looking to get something done quickly for a gift. Of course, cure times are still, you know, a factor, but the design itself, this can be quick and easy. So once I've got the vinyl measured out, we're going to use the hinge method like usual to apply the vinyl. That means that we're going to cut about 1 inch of the backing off of the vinyl, the carrier sheet, and then we're going to apply that by hinging that sticky part to the tumbler once it's straight, and then we'll press the vinyl onto the cup while we're pressing the backing off of the cup. So you'll see that here in the next step. Here's the hinge part, and then we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna press the backing off while we're pressing the vinyl on. So once that is all smooth, there's no air bubbles, we can go ahead and cut the seam, and then we'll go into our next steps. Once the seam is cut off, I'm gonna take my sharp X-Acto, which this one is not sharp, hence the reason it's taking me so long. We're gonna take that X-Acto at about a 45-degree angle, and we're going to just cut off any excess that's hanging over the top rim of that tumbler. We wanna create a very small fine line of stainless steel and expose that so the coats of epoxy can adhere properly to the tumbler, creating a good seal for longevity. So once that is completely cut off, make sure you wipe away any excess vinyl that's sticking around there. And then we're gonna go in, and I keep an entire container of stripes in various colors and sizes and textures on hand so I don't have to cut them specific to a design. Now, of course, there are instances where I don't have a color, but my kind of core colors, my metallics, my blacks, my whites, my pinks, purples, all of that I keep on hand in this little container, so I can just easily grab whatever matches my design and use it without having to get my Cricut out, because Cricut cutting takes forever. So I'm just gonna match up. This blue ended up matching perfectly with the blue in the vinyl. And then I decided, since I always use textured gold metallic, that I was gonna use this copper metallic this time. It's a textured. The blue is just a tad bit bigger. If I had to guess, I would say that's probably a 0.08 by 11.5 inches. And the copper is probably like a 0.05 by 11.5 inches. And I'm gonna run that right along the seam between the wood grain and the vinyl to cover that up. And then once the blue is laid down, we're gonna go back over and we're going to lay that copper right over top in the center of the blue. Of course, it's optional to layer it. You can do one color, you can do, you know, horizontally, top to bottom, and not overlap them, however you wanna do it. But once they're laid down, make sure you cut off that excess. And then we're gonna go in with our polycrylic and epoxy steps next. For wood grain designs, I do not do anything with spray sealing, because depending on the type of alcohol ink and the type of spray sealer, I've had it where it does change the color of the alcohol ink. So I've had it where like a light wood grain turns into like a pukey green color after I've sprayed it, and sometimes it doesn't go back to the original color. So I'm gonna go over the vinyl with some polycrylic. I'm going along the vinyl rim versus the wood grain on the bottom half of the vinyl stripe, if that makes sense. I don't want to rub my finger along the wood grain, so I'm gonna put the polycrylic on the fish vinyl and then just very, like, as light as you possibly can, run that across the vinyl striping, the blue and the copper vinyl striping. That's just to make sure that we're not pushing around any alcohol inks so the chemicals aren't mixing. So I didn't have any discoloration for the polycrylic, so that's good, but always take precaution just because I don't know how all alcohol inks are gonna act. So once that polycrylic is dry after about 30 minutes or so, we're gonna go in with our first coat of epoxy. I used 30 milliliters of Flynn Sisters fast setting epoxy. I used probably 15 milliliters on this design. I did have a lot of extra, so I just threw it on another cup I had spinning, but it's such a small cup that you hardly needed anything. So we're gonna apply that, taking care to wipe off any excess. You don't want any micro bubbles or anything on this design, especially because there's no glitter to cover it up. It's really visible if you do have any micro bubbles. So thin layers, and we're going to torch that once the epoxy is fully applied, just to get rid of any micro bubbles. I do go back after probably about 10 minutes after applying the first coat of epoxy, and I retorch it because it will have a chance to kind of push the air bubbles to the top of the tumbler. So I just give it a second little run through with my torch, and then after that coat of epoxy was done, this was the final design. Like I mentioned, this will get another coat of epoxy, but for the tutorial, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick last minute tutorial. I haven't seen you in a minute, so I've got some others on the back burner, and I will see you guys in the next video.